This is the second video in a two-part video series. Today we're covering how to be a great host. In the previous video, we covered how to be a great guest. You can watch that here on my YouTube channel if you want to check out the companion piece. Just like we talked about in the last video, collaborations have never gone out of style. And that is what being a good host and a good guest is all about. With the way that we are inundated with so much information and things clamoring for our attention, doing collaborations is one of the fastest ways to build up a super fan base so that you can sell more product and you can build know, like, and trust faster with your core audience. But it's not so simple. It's actually a lot of work. And in today's video, I'm going to break down for you exactly how to become an amazing super host. When you are the host, you can maximize your ability to reach more audiences so much faster. It helps you grow your visibility as a leader, and you can also grow your reach through list building, through the art of collaborations. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mary, and I am the owner of Sensible Woo. I'm also the host of the School of Moxie podcast, which you can watch here on my YouTube channel. Today, I'm giving you another behind the scenes video that totally applies to podcasting, but it also applies to every other type of way that you could possibly host other guests in your space. In the last video, we talked about all the ways being a super guest is really powerful for you to develop as a skill. And being a guest is really great, but being a host is even better. Being a host gives you access to so many more people on an entirely different level because you're positioning yourself as an authority and a leader in your space. I hope it goes without saying at this point for my entrepreneur crowd here, but being the leader in any situation elevates your visibility in a way that increases your brand recognition. Just like with being a great guest, when you're a host, you can host everything from a podcast like I do to summits, which I have also done. You can also host people in guest blogging spots on your blog. You could host bundle offers where you package together a whole bunch of low priced or free lead gen offers and you play the role of the host. So you're doing the work. There are so many different ways that you could possibly host other people inside of your business space. And the opportunities, honestly, they keep growing and they're almost limitless. No matter what the project is that you're hosting, there are some things you are going to want to make sure you do as a host to maximize the opportunity that you're having in this collaborative space. It's going to give you the maximum possible return on investment that you can for your time, your energy, and your efforts. But when you also embrace the role as a super host, it helps you gain a reputation in the entrepreneurial community as one of the people who's one of those ultimate collaborators. People want to work with you, they don't question it, and they give you their best stuff. Before we get started, I'm going to invite you to smash that subscribe button below this video so that you can keep getting all of these great updates here on my channel. We're going to be doing a lot more of this content throughout the year because we're moving into topics around media production. So if that's up your alley, then this is definitely the place for you. Also, don't be afraid to click that thumbs up like button. It really helps me know that you would like more of this content, and it gives me that feedback I need so that I can keep giving it to you. If you really like what's going on here on this YouTube channel, then you are going to love my Saturday free newsletters. They come out every week. I show you how I produce things in my business. I give you access to things that are not in these public channels. And you can get that subscription for free when you tap the link right below this video in the show notes, in the video description. Do it right now. It takes like 30 seconds. You'll be all set up to go. And then you can enjoy the rest of this video and get even more good stuff in next week's newsletter. You've probably come around here to Sensible Woo because you like the sensible parts and the woo-woo parts. And I'm a really big champion of energetics inside of the business spaces, but from a very, very practical perspective. So every week in that newsletter, you're also going to get a free Tarot Akashic reading that is dedicated entirely to your business. So it helps you start off the week right, on the right footing. You feel better connected to what's happening in your business, and you can make better intuitive judgment calls. All right, let's talk about being a host. Being a host is not a small thing. Being a host can give you the best possible access to a lot of really great people. And it also means you have to set people up for success. We do a lot of analogous thinking and reasoning around here at Sensible Woo. It's one of the things people love here. It's why we have the School of Moxie podcast. We take television shows and movies and we turn them into business lessons. So let's do an analogous exercise here. When you're hosting inside of your business, you want to think of it as if you've invited a whole bunch of people over to your home and you're hosting a dinner party. This is the point where if you heard me say you're having people coming over and you're hosting a dinner party and you kind of went, or I don't know about that, or you're just completely drawing a blank like I don't have any context for what it's like to host something, this is your sign from the universe right now that it is time to do something in the real world. You can check out all of the energy reports from the previous months before this video. This theme has been coming up all year long. The need to get back into the art of peopling with other people. And being a host in real life for something real small and simple is a really easy way to get this energetic juju into your system so that you can really host great things inside of your business. If you need to start at this stage, doing something super simple, like simply being the person who arranges a simple luncheon get together with some of your local business friends is one of the easiest ways to get the feeling of what it's like to be a host, to choose a location, to send out the invitations, and to make sure everybody arrives and that you are the one who made it happen. You get that feeling in your system. And once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. It's going to make it so much easier to host really big collaborations down the line. Now, the act of hosting something low key, whether it's something like going back to basics and simply arranging some networking get-togethers in town, or hosting something simple inside of your business, like a free book club gathering. Those activities can show you a number of things, and they're really valuable to look at. By hosting something that is low stakes or no stakes at all, it gives you a chance to do some self-check and balances in your energetic spaces to determine how ready are you to do larger hosting duties. You're checking in with yourself first. You're asking yourself, what kind of capacity do I have in this season? Not forever, just in this season. This season could be today, it could be 1 week, it could be a month, but what kind of season are you in right now? And what kind of energetic capacity do you have honestly to be a good host? Is this a good season for hosting for you? You can discover this through doing something that is no stakes or low stakes by checking in with yourself as you're putting together the logistics. Are you doing well with simple logistics? Can you handle harder logistics? How are you feeling when it comes to the complexity of an event that you can host? It is not unusual that we have kind of a mishmash of feelings and that you can host something, but you need it to be a little bit on the simpler side. What this does is it helps you tap into the energetics of you, yourself, as your number one and very first system inside of your business. Remember the energetics of business and in life. The universe is never going to give you more than you can handle. So if you do push yourself to bite off more than you can chew, you're probably not going to get the big windfall that you've been fantasizing about. Or if you do get some degree of that really great outcome, you're not going to be able to absorb all of the really great things that came to you, and it's going to slow you down as you move forward in the future because the energetics of the universe are going to say, that might have been a little bit too much. How about if we give you a little bit less next time? And that feels really crappy when you're an entrepreneur. So what we want to do is set ourselves up for as much of an upward, gentle trajectory as possible. We don't want these really huge spikes and then crashes and then spikes and then crashes. That's exhausting, and you're not going to get the benefits out of doing collaborations long term. The goal here is to work your resilience factor up until you get to a space where you are in the maximum place of receiving as much as possible. So let's try these small tests first as hosts, because other people will be depending on you, as you're going to find out in the rest of this video. And that way you can make sure that you show up big and bright for them, and you also don't feel like you've let them down as well. All right. Now that we've solved for the super personal assessment portion of this video, let's get into the practical steps that go into making you an amazing host that other people can't stop talking about. Let's start with the tips for being a super host, and then we'll get into why anyone would do all this work and what kind of benefit you get from it. First things first. You are going to do your homework as a host. You want to study other people who are amazing super hosts. What information do they share and how do they share it? Can you tell if they have help from a team or do they do this all by themselves? And what does all of that information inform you about how you want to show up for your collaborations and for your audience? And what kind of product you're capable of producing that feels really good to you? The second thing that superhosts do is they make things super duper obvious. This is Systems 101. This is the bread and butter of Sensible Woo. Remember that analogy of being the person throwing the fabulous dinner party at your house. In the same way that you would have real life guests in your home know exactly where the bathroom is and where the drink cart is at and where all the action is happening in this dinner party in the house, you're going to do the same thing with your business guests inside of the collaboration. You're going to make sure they know exactly where the resources are at and when things are happening and what the lay of the land is for this particular party. The third tip is around communication. Ideally, you as the superhost are communicating with your guests from the moment you have invited them into your space. So you don't invite them and then leave this long gap where you really don't talk to them. You are constantly making sure they know when things are coming up. Even if things are delayed, you're letting them know that too. And you are just basically constantly informing them of all the things that are happening behind the scenes so they're not in the dark. You are also communicating with people through the end of the collaboration. So just because the actual event happened doesn't mean that there's not something else that needs to be sent, even if it's a simple thank you. I always like to make sure that my guests know what the next date is that they can expect to hear from me, and I try to make sure that they hear from me on that date. This next point gets missed so often, it surprises the heck out of me as a host. I can't believe that more hosts don't make sure that this is a point that they do not miss when they are playing the role of a superhost. And the point is, you have to tell your guests when the content is going live. You have to tell them when the day is, when the time is, and you have to make sure that they are fully informed about when their presence is going to be expected. Even with something like a summit that is being broadcast live, it seems like it should be really obvious that somebody is due to be on a stage or in a room at a particular time. But you'd be amazed how many times guests get confused, and especially if it's virtual, you need to make sure that everybody has coordinated their time zones properly and that the expectations have been set. With things that have been pre-recorded, like a podcast, which is super popular right now, you need to tell them the date. Not the estimated date, not the hopeful date, but the actual date that the episode is going to go live. Now let's do another personal check and balance. If you're kind of shrugging your shoulders at this point and you've been shipping your content super loosey-goosey up to this point, then you are definitely going to want to stay in touch with me through my email newsletter. So I'm going to remind you again and invite you to tap that link to subscribe to the newsletter in the show notes in the video description below this video. Think of this just like making a movie. I came from the movie making business. So when you work in entertainment, you know that shows and movies are always in service of the release date. And as business owners, this is a really great lesson. We need to treat our newsletters and our podcasts and our summits exactly the same way. This is not so much for you. This is for your audience. It gives them confidence. It gives them trust that you will show up when you say you're going to show up. And it also helps your guests feel the same way, and also their audiences by extension. Their audiences also need to know that they can trust you and the guest you've invited into your space, and that you will all show up exactly when you say you will. As super hosts, we also want to make sure we give our guests as much marketing collateral as possible. This does not have to be fancy, by the way, and it doesn't have to be a ton of stuff, but we do need to give them some things to go by so that they can be consistent in how they're talking to their audiences as well. This means you're providing them with one high quality graphic at minimum. And this graphic should be able to be used universally across the different social media platforms and in newsletters and on blogs and things like that. You're also giving them some of the words that they need. When your guests have the words that are required, it takes so much work off their plate and they're able to actually show up for you as the host, and it takes so much pressure off. You'd be amazed at how much more they will share if you give them that collateral. This also doesn't have to be difficult to do. You can repurpose show notes and descriptions from things. You do not need to recreate the wheel and write a ton of copy in order to share words and images and graphics with your guests. I find as a superhost that it's really helpful to be able to share hashtags with your guests so they know which hashtags you are pushing out for your own SEO with your content. Don't let them pick the hashtags. You should definitely make sure that they know which ones you expect them to use. And if you need them to share this marketing collateral on a certain date or collection of dates, they need to know this also in advance. Make sure that they've agreed to this and that they understand it. One of the best ways to make it super easy for your guest and for yourself is to have everyone sign a guest agreement form. That way, everything's been laid out and they're clear that they agreed to do something with you, and you're clear that they also agreed at a certain point in time. Now, if your guest doesn't follow through and do what they're supposed to do, sometimes there's really not a whole lot you can do. You can gently remind them, you can encourage them, but if you notice that they just fall through on the agreement that they signed with you, you as the host now, because you're a super host, you can keep track of this as data for the future, and that's probably a guest you're not going to invite back in the future. Remember, it doesn't matter how big and impressive somebody's list or brand is. If they cannot follow through as a guest, you as a host know that that is not a good guest. And these are the things that super hosts do. They make critical decisions, they keep track, and then they make better judgment calls in the future. So instead of inviting people back again and again who are going to let you down and are going to let all your audiences down, you're going to make sure that you continue to increase the level of the type of guests that you invite in. Next, keeping on with this marketing collateral that we're talking about, let's also talk about making it your mission to send your guests all of this collateral at minimum 24 hours in advance of the date of the live thing. Since we're doing a lot of podcasting around here at Sensible Woo, this is a really great best practice for podcasts. If it's a live event like summits, I used to run a lot of summits, especially during COVID. You want to make sure your guests have this marketing collateral at least a week in advance, because it's a little too late to ask someone to show up to a live broadcast for something if you expect live bodies in the room. And especially if you're selling tickets to something, you really need to make sure your guests have the information at least 1 week prior, preferably 2. What we don't want to see, which is what happens so much in the hosting world, is random last minute announcements from the host and from the guest, and they're like, oh, wait, guess what's happening? Even worse, and we see this a lot in the podcasting space, is that the information about the episode goes out after the episode has gone live. So that first 7 days that an episode goes live is really critical for a podcast episode. It's also critical on YouTube, and it's critical in your newsletter. And if we miss that 7-day window, we're really missing the boat on a lot of great metrics and a lot of really great momentum. And it's probably the number one systematic reason why things in your business are not taking off the way you're hoping. Okay, our next point. You want to make sure as our super host that you are highlighting your guests as much as possible. One of the things that I've been hearing from my guests is that they appreciate how easy I make it for them to share content. It is as simple as making sure that I am connected to them on social media as much as possible. Now, everybody is not on all the same platforms, and you do not have to be either. But on your major platforms, making sure you're connected before you need to be connected is a really great winning move. That way, when you share your collateral on time, you can tag them, they get the notification for the tag, and once they are tagged, it makes it possible for them to reshare everything from a post to a story to a reel to a TikTok to whatever it is that is going out. They then have the capability because they've been invited through the act of being tagged. And because we are not always all on all of the same different social media platforms or methods of communicating, also especially if somebody's in a private community that you're not in, it's not going to be possible for you to be able to tag them in all the places. That is not your responsibility as the host. Your responsibility as a host to do the steps that came prior, which is that you have shared all the collateral that helps your guest share in places where you cannot tag them. But by you taking a huge weight off their shoulders, by tagging them on really simple posts, it gives them more bandwidth and more attention and energy and freedom to amplify the message by sharing in places that you cannot be as the host. Okay, this last super host move is very personal and it's very important. It is that you need to make sure you have cleared your space and time so that you have energetic capacity to be the host. This is so that you can be as responsive as possible when content goes live. People are going to be liking things and responding and leaving comments, and they're going to be resharing things and tagging you too. And you need to be able to have the bandwidth to be online to respond to all those comments. Not a week from now and not a month from now, but somewhere within a 24 to 48 hour period. Let's do an analogous thinking exercise here. This would be kind of like if you were in person at a live conference in a convention hall. And let's say that you've been featured in a workshop and people want to talk to you. But if you hide out in your room and you don't attend the workshop and you're not on the convention floor to actually have conversations with people, you've lost out on all the networking opportunities. And that is the equivalent of what happens online in online spaces when you don't show up to comment back in the comments. If you notice that your online behavior is like your offline behavior and you're typically hiding out in your hotel room, whether it's real or proverbial, that is a really great sign that we need to go back to the very, very first check and balance, which is, what is my readiness in this season to participate? Do I have a deeper need that is related to therapy and not coaching? Or do I need a little coaching? In which case, this video should have addressed a lot of those issues for you already. With both the guesting video and this video on hosting, the number one rule really is don't be a hermit. As a fellow introvert, I will tell you, I have my seasons of hermiting and I have my seasons of being more social and being just a little bit more extroverted. I get pooped out pretty quickly. So that's usually when I need a break. And if you're like me, just know that it is natural to have really busy weeks where you're talking to a lot of people, and then weeks where you're like, I'm recharging my batteries and I just am not talking to a lot of people right now. That's really normal actually. But if you're hermiting all the time where you're like, I just can't get out there and talk to people, that is something that I'm really trying to normalize around here. That is not a coaching thing that can be solved. That is a therapy need. And I'm going to lovingly encourage you to go find a great therapist. It's really important that we start looking at it this way, because I see so many people who want to be great guests and they also want to be in the hosting capacity. But when they're in the moment doing the activity, they find that they're getting stopped. And that's a really frustrating feeling as an entrepreneur. It can really be a big blow to your confidence. It can make you feel like you've done something wrong when you haven't at all. It's just a need for solving the problem from a different angle. Okay, so why would somebody want to add more work to their plate? I mean, isn't it just fine to give people the bare minimum and let them pick up the slack for you? Isn't that the whole point, that you have guests who will do the work for you? And the answer is no. Here's why that doesn't work. The first thing is that people need instructions. Unless they are a super guest who has also played the role of a super host, so they know both parts, most people are going to need to be told exactly what to do and when to do it. Even the most impressive of people need to be told what to do so that they know what your expectations are as the host. It's just like going to someone's home for a dinner party, and when you're there, it's not your home. So you don't just put your feet up on the furniture and just sort of wander around and do whatever you want to do. You want to be respectful of their space, and you'll find that other people will respond the same way inside of your offer. Remember that if you are not clear on the expectations you have with everybody, you are not going to get the return from everybody and their audiences as a result of the collaboration. Whatever you're dreaming about and all your unspoken thoughts, they need to be expressed outwardly through spoken words. We have to learn to articulate what it is we're saying, which is a big skill we've been building here on Sensible Woo all year long. The second part of this is that even when somebody's an amazing super guest, having clear expectations laid out from the host takes an immense amount of pressure off of the guest. They may totally know what they need to do and when to do it, even if you don't tell them. But when you're clear and you show that you have your act together, you give them even greater confidence to know that they're not also putting an effort that's not going to be matched. This third part is something that sets you up for the future in a really powerful way. Simply demonstrating that you have things well organized and systematized behind the scenes, and that you're not a chaotic, frantic mess. It speaks volumes about who you are as an entrepreneur. It sets you up for future trust and know, like, and trust, but heavy on the trust with other people for future collaborations. Remember, you can tell people that you're ready until the cows come home, but your actions are always going to say everything you need to know. If you're a walking contradiction of great words, but the actions fall flat, word does get around. People do talk about collaborations behind the scenes, and you might find that people are hesitant to say yes to you in the future. Which leads us to our next point, which is that if you need really great guests in the future, believe it or not, super guests talk amongst themselves behind the scenes, and they know who the really great hosts are. Many of them will exchange information about whether that collaboration offer is worth the time, energy, and effort before they engage in it. So if you've noticed that you have crickets chirping as a host and you've been inviting people in and you just feel like those collaborations seem to be dragging their feet, that's a great piece of data for yourself that you need to work on rebuilding the trust with your guests. This is when you want to over communicate all of your systems and over deliver on your timing and work on repairing your reputation. So you're going to work on a collaboration. You're going to get the best guests you possibly can. You're going to over deliver for them. Make sure that you are super on time, that they have everything that they need, and that you can then communicate that back out and ask them for referrals from other people so that they can tell other people that you did have your act together on that hosting opportunity. And you'll start to rebuild that hosting reputation. Finally, let's bring this back full circle into the energetics that we love to do here at Sensible Woo. The sensible part is all the systems that we're talking about, making sure things go out on time, making sure people have the practical things they need in order to help you with the business part. The woo part is that energy is flowing through your business and everybody else's constantly. When you have created maximum flow, which is what all these tips will help you do, you then create more ability to receive abundance, which is what a lot of people are hoping that they can do when they are trying to be a good host. If you want more abundance and you want to get that through hosting, you as the entrepreneur are going to have to increase your capacity for more flow. Otherwise, it's always going to feel like a little trickle. I have seen people with tiny audiences create huge abundance simply by doing these tips on being a great guest and a great host. And I've also seen people with really large audiences and impressive brands tank so fast because they thought that they could just ride on their reputation and people should be grateful that they simply showed up, but they didn't do any of the work. The marketplace, especially since COVID, is a lot savvier now, which means you really have to be on your game, not only as a guest, but especially as a host. Your guests are going to have more expertise than they used to simply because they have better awareness of how business works. If you produce bullshit as a host, they are going to smell it from a mile away and they are going to tell a lot of people about it. As a host, you always want to remember that each guest is going to come into the space with a varying degree of expertise and experience from doing collaborations. Remember that you can go back to my channel here and watch the previous video on how to be a great guest so that you can learn some of the hallmarks about what makes a really great super guest so you can help set them up for success to be super guests for you as a host. As a host, if you do end up in the situation where you have a guest who's a really poor collaborator, what I like to do is I just keep track of the actions. As a super host, your job is not to correct or punish anybody. It is simply to do your job as a host, be warm and inviting, do all of the parts that you're supposed to do, and then keep track of the data overall. And as you keep track, you are then going to make better decisions for future seasons, future episodes, future posts, future summits, future events, whatever it is that you're doing. If somebody really tanked and they didn't do their job and they didn't communicate with you and you have no idea what's going on with them, remember, you're not their therapist either. So if they don't tell you anything, then all you're doing is keeping track. And on the next round, you're probably not going to send them an invite. It doesn't matter how big their audience is. I have seen people, they have come into the Sensible Woo container in the past, and they're so disappointed that that person with the really great big audience just is monumentally unhelpful. And sometimes it's really hard to just let that go and realize that person is just not going to be the collaborator for you. And to realize that you have really, really great people in front of you. Remember that unless somebody is paying you for coaching on how to be a good guest, it is their job to put on their CEO pants and show up as a CEO for you. Remember, when you have your system set up to support yourself and everybody else, it enables everyone to show up and get that maximum return on investment in your time, energy, and efforts so that you can grow your audiences, you can increase your leads, and you can try to sell more in revenue in the coming quarter. Strong systems will make it so that this is not a heavy lift for you or for anybody else. With all of this said now in this video, if you discover that you are not feeling enjoyment from doing this activity and it feels like so much extra work, that is a really great sign that your systems are honestly suffering. A super easy action to start with is just sign up for my email newsletter. You can tap the link right below this video in the video description and sign up for that right now. And then you can start getting systems emails every week from me. And slowly but surely, these little tidbits are going to help you get your systems in order. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this two-part series. I'm going to invite you one last time to go ahead and click that subscribe button below, click the thumbs up like button. Those two simple actions support this channel in a way that allows me to know through your data that these are the types of content pieces you would like more of, and it enables me to help you learn more and grow your business throughout the year. I will see you next time. Until then, be sensible, be woo, and most of all, be you.